What is going on, dear tech lovers? I hope you're all having a wonderful day. My name is Christian and welcome to my YouTube channel. Over here you can expect honest and complete reviews about basically all kind of technical stuff. So let's get into today's video. So this beast of a telephoto lens is what Tamron calls the Tamron SP 70-300mm F4-5.6 DI VC USD. I know what you're thinking. Damn, that is a very long name. And what does that even mean? I'm going to explain it to you in this video. So we're going to start off with talking about the specifications of this thing. Afterwards, we're going to move on to design and build quality, followed by the probably most important thing, image and video quality. And at the end, I'm going to talk about what I have experienced with it and whether or not it is a good lens and it is worth buying even 10 years after its original release in 2010. So let's get straight into the video. Let's get back to this name. So Tamron is the company's name. Check. Then we have SP, which stands for superior performance. This is Tamron's way to tell the customers that this is the best lens they can get for their price. So basically meaning that you won't be doing any sacrifices when buying this. But whether or not this is true, we're going to find out later. Then we have 70-300mm, which is the focal length of this lens. This is what basically declares this lens as telephoto lens. And I have to say the ability to go all the way to 300mm, which basically means 4 times zoom and compared to the 70mm, gives you the ability to basically make a photo of anything. Doesn't really matter how far away it is. And this is a very great thing about this camera, and this is basically the thing why you buy this camera, because of its focal length. Alright, then we have F4-5.6. This is the aperture. This is the value that defines how much light the lens is letting through on the sensor. So the 4-5.6 is pretty mid-range, so it's about the aperture that the kit lens of every DSLR has. They mostly have 3.5 to 5.6, which doesn't make a real big difference. So everything that you can shoot with your DSLR camera kit lens, even at night, you will be able to shoot with this. In comparison, most high-end telephoto lenses normally have an aperture about f2, meaning that you can basically get great shots even if it is dark outside or you don't have that much light to make the photo with. And on the other side, really cheap telephoto lenses have an aperture about f8 to f12 even, which basically means you can put these aside as soon as it gets dark, because they won't give you anything near of a well exposed picture. Alright, check. Next we have DI. This means digitally integrated design, as Tamron names it. This means that this lens has been optimized to work with digital SLR cameras. Then we have VC, which stands for vibration compensation. Sounds fancy, but in reality it is just the image stabilization of the system, which is one of the main things why you should buy this. So we will get back to this point later. Finally, USD. This means ultra silent drive, and this is the focus auto drive motor in this lens. But I do need to mention at this point that from going to the nearest focus distance, which is 1.5 meters, to the farthest away, which is infinite, it does take 3/4 of a second. So if you plan on doing wildlife shots on birds that are flying and you have not already zoomed in on that bird, you will need to calculate about half a second to get focused on the bird, which in a lot of cases is just too much to get a great shot. So yeah, I just wanted to have that mentioned. Alright, now we're going to move on to more specs about this lens. I'm going to make a list, and this list is basically including everything I could have found, so that even a photographist enthusiast is not going to miss anything on this list. So they have the list. Alright, next up, design and build quality. So as we talk about design, I gotta give it to Tamron. I think that this is a very nice looking lens. For example, if you take the golden ring between the focal length ring and the autofocus ring. I think that this is a very great detail they built in, and it really gives the lens like a special look, right? And also the display where you can see the focus distance is also very nicely made, and I love having these on my lenses because it just takes less work to focus on a specific distance that you want. Also the buttons, you have an image stabilization button over here. Yeah, over here, image stabilization, and besides of that you have the autofocus or manual focus button, both great. And you also have that SP logo over here, which is a very nice detail, I think. So as soon as it comes to design, I love the design. It feels great. It does weigh 800 grams though. So if you're going hiking or trekking or something and you're not like, I'm going to carry a lot with me, this lens is not optimal for you because 800 grams is a lot though. Alright, so moving on to build quality. I do gotta say, this thing is mostly made out of plastic, but I mean it is a 300 euro lens that has a great focal length and that will give you nice shots, right? So you cannot expect the most rigid lens that you can get out there on the market, but I think it does feel very solid and rigid. And over here, this is plastic, right? So this is plastic, this is plastic. Over here you have still plastic, and the only real thing that is out of aluminium that you can see is the metal bayonet, so that's a great thing. Inside, still plastic though. But I think overall I would say that the build quality is great on this thing. I have seen way cheaper looking lenses, and it does not feel cheap, right? You know this is plastic, but it still is solid and it does not feel cheap in any means. So yeah, and the fact that it comes with the lens suit included, that's just cool, right? I love Tamron for that. Right, moving on to the most important point, which is image and video quality, and this is basically the reason why you should consider buying one of these, and because of the focal length. So for that I'm going to take some sample pictures and videos and compare them to each other. I'm also going to talk about the image stabilization and the autofocus, so that you guys can get an idea of how fast the autofocus is and what difference the image stabilization system does make. Because you guys may know there is the Tamron 70-300mm, the cheaper macro variant of this without image stabilization, a bit lighter, but it has the same focal length, but you do not get the image stabilization within it. So basically the only reason why you pay 200 euros more is that image stabilization. And let me tell you something straight up, you really are going to need that if you're going out in the wildlife and trying to shoot animals. You're going to need that. Alright, so let's get to the samples. Okay, so just took that picture of those houses right down the hill, and the first thing we're going to talk about is the focal distance. So I'm going to give you guys examples at 70mm, 135, 200 and 300mm, so that you guys can get an idea how close you can get to objects with this lens. So this picture, the first one, is taken at 70mm. Okay. Then we have 135mm, and you can see you are much closer, and you can digitally get even closer. Okay, but that's not all. This is 200mm, and right now you are pretty close, and you can see that the image is still sharp. Even on the outer side of the image, it is still sharp. You can still see everything on it, and this is 300mm, the maximum. And if you compare this to the first picture that I have taken, that's a decent zoom you have. Okay, so we're going to stick around with this picture and take a closer look at its quality. So the overall quality is great. It's everything sharp, and now we're going to zoom in digitally, and you can still see this is the corner of the picture, and there's no chromatic aberration, and the sharpness is still great. Okay, right now even more zoomed in, you can still see that the quality is being maintained, and no later than this point the cheaper alternative would make worse pictures. and I think this is what makes this lens great. You're not doing compromises, you have great image quality. Even when you digitally zoom in like at the max possible, you still maintain great quality, and this is what I really love about this lens. Okay, so now I just want to show you guys how quick the autofocus actually is. So I'm focused right now on about 1.7 meters, so just around the minimum focus distance, and I'm going to focus on the background, and you can see how much it takes for the autofocus to actually get focused. The background is way like 16 meters. Yeah, so just another quick example with a bit more distance. So this is basically infinite. I'm going to focus over here. Yeah, you need to calculate that the autofocus is going to need about half a second, 3/4 of a second before you are actually focused on your subject. So especially for wildlife photographers that really need like fast autofocuses, I'm not quite sure if this is fast enough, but I mean for my purposes this is more than fast. And yeah, I just wanted you guys to have an example. Okay, and the image stabilization is on right now, and I'm going to wiggle the tripod. Yeah, and as you guys can see, I do wiggle the tripod, and the image is a bit wiggly, but that's nothing. So right now I'm going to do the same, but with image stabilization off, and you can immediately see the difference. So I'm going to wiggle right now. Wiggle a bit harder. Alright, so right now I'm keep wiggling, and I'm going to turn it on. And you can see the difference very hardly. I have bought the lens because having this image stabilization for me is very important. It is a cool feature because as soon as you shoot on 300mm handheld, you will get a problem, especially if it is a bit more dark outside. Maybe it is cloudy and not always sunshine, right? So you're going to get a problem handheld shooting at far distances with this thing without image stabilization. At this point I do need to say, if you do not need image stabilization, it is of course much cleverer to buy the more cheaper alternative to it, the normal Tamron 70 to 300mm. But if you would like to shoot wildlife, if you would have that freedom of doing handheld photos or videos, even at late time, even on cloudy days, you do need image stabilization, and this works perfectly, as you guys have seen. Alright, and over here another example. I just took that church so that you guys can see what difference the image stabilization makes. I'm doing it handheld right now, so I'm trying to keep it as steady as I can. And right now I'm doing a video, I'm keeping it steady, and the image stabilization is on, right? And right now I'm going to turn it off, and we're going to see how steady I can hold the picture. And you do see the difference, it just wiggles, you cannot hold it steady. And as soon as it is evening or bad lighting conditions, I'm just going to turn it on. Alright, as soon as it gets evening or bad lighting condition, and you do have to have a higher shutter speed, and you do not have image stabilization on your lens, you will see that you're going to get into a few troubles without having a tripod. And especially in wildlife, when there are very fast like animals passing you and you want to make a photo of them, you also are going to need the image stabilization for doing a video, for really like getting a bird and then just following the bird, alright? Without image stabilization, this just looks stupid, you know. Alright, and now the last point of this video, my personal experience and whether or not I think this is a great telephoto lens. And I do need to say, this thing is 10 years old and it still owns the title of the best budget telephoto lens. And I do have to agree with that. It is a great telephoto lens. It packs a punch, everything that you need. You have an image stabilization, you have 300mm focal length, which is great. It does weight a lot, but it has a nice design. It feels sturdy, it feels very good in the hand. And from my experience, I made a lot of trips with it I've done a lot of photos with it. I'm going to give you guys some examples on the screen. I love using it. It does make very sharp pictures, as you guys have seen. It is okay with videos. You have the image stabilization. You can do basically what you want with this thing. And so if anyone would ask me to recommend them a telephoto lens, and at this point I do need to say I'm not being sponsored by Tamron or by anyone. I'm making these videos because I was at the point where you probably are right now, and you ask yourself, well, I need a great telephoto lens, but I don't know which one I should buy. And you're searching the web, you're looking on YouTube reviews, and you're just trying to get information together to know what is the best for you. I'm such a person. I was sitting hours in front of YouTube and the web searching for information and whether or not this thing is good or not. And to basically not waste your time on that, I decided to make this video and give you all the information and samples and what I think about in one video. And this is my reason why I'm doing these videos. Right, but getting back to my experience with it, I do love it and I would rebuy it at any time. If you have the budget, 300 euros, and you would like to have a telephoto lens, which really you don't make any sacrifices with it, it does weigh a lot, you need to carry it with you. But other than that, I don't see really any negative point about this. I'm using it on my Canon 250D, which is a APS-C sensor type camera, right? This of course also works for the bigger cameras, like the full format cameras. I don't know whether or not the chromatic aberration on the full format cameras is a thing or not. I do not think so, but thanks to the fact that the APS-C sensors are cropping the real image, you're not seeing anything of chromatic aberration. And yes, it is a very, very good lens, I think. I'm going to make a list of my pros and cons about this lens. And yeah guys, that was it from me. I think I've mentioned everything I wanted to mention. I hope you guys liked the video. I'm just a dude trying to save you up on some time with researching technical stuff. That's what my channel is all about. And if you liked this video and if I helped you with what I've done here, leave a like and don't forget to subscribe. I'm going to make a list of the things I'm preparing to review next. So if you're interested in one of those things named on my list, which I'm going to put on the screen right now, just subscribe and keep it up. I'm going to try to make videos every 1 or 2 weeks. So yeah, I hope I helped you guys. That was it from me. I'm wishing you a great day and stay healthy guys. Peace out.